just 4 years ago. So, this dozens of terrorists.
I got together a few more surprises for them while you were gone. So let's get this shit done.
Just sit there. Lots of things. This does not look like a major retaliation. I'm not sure how this will end up, but this is a punishment. So I'm not sure how this will end up.
See what we got.
Sincerely, Major here. But at the end of the day, this is something that we need. Let me rephrase that. This is something that people like me dream about, and everyone else will say that nothing at all.
I thought back and forth was wrong to look up my ass.
Man, the Satan's supposed to be wanted in story 3. You cool to grab it?
Absolutely.
And we should come
Hyperventilating in a paper bag where explanatory done for thoughts.
Oh shit, yeah. I'll call it.
You ready?
Anna,
They don't
me.
even know what
Down
it
there,
is.
it's fine. We're calling some zombies.
I thought the radio silence. I'm gonna lose her now after she gets back. She's there? She heard them? Okay. You've done right by all of us. So, I found a code for a locked chest somewhere.
You're probably free enough for these papers? I thought you were all up around snapping it.
Well, I learned it a couple times over. You'll be happy with what you find. I've hijacked this scope to get the answer to the phone.
I think that you're good grandma and get back to the galactic. Thanks again, though. Fucking gas.
Literally, that's stay cool, Bobcats. See you when I see you.
It's convenient for you. And we test this time of officially declared war since World War II. So are you going to tell me that what happened in Vietnam is not war? What happened in Afghanistan? None of those are wars, folks. Stop parroting talking points that you hear from idiots online. And games those narratives down. It's not doing you any favors. Do some research. And the slightest bit of research it's what we have to talk about. The CIA and a successful regime change. And now we're watching them try to do it. And now, I am not telling you they are thinking. In fact, it's the exact opposite. But they were put there by us as well. Everyone who has ran, no pun intended, everyone who has ran, I ran. Essentially, This is what you signed up for. This is what I put in your gift. Now we're here. We have to deal with the consequences, and that'll be updated. Everything that happens. So subscribe, comment, like the video, and I'll talk to you very soon.
On Route 40 and take the 285 south, you're in the middle of nowhere. It's sand and scrub brush for miles. Take this drive at night, and the darkness is something you've never seen. It's heavy and penetrating and unsettling if you're not used to it. And summer storms in the New Mexico desert are also something unique. Heat lightning can tear through the sky for hours, lighting up the landscape all the way to the horizon. July 1st, 1947, was one of the worst lightning
It's way too late to be able to eat.
that same night.
Came out here from Sterling Hotel.
Roswell has been tracking strange radar clips, seen with the nearby White Sands Proving Ground, a missile base that had been testing German V-2 rockets since the end of the war. The nuclear testing facility at the Alamogordo bombing range was also tracking the objects. The blips were moving too fast to be aircraft. Some blips would disappear off the radar screen, then reappear a few seconds later. This was a major concern. The 509th at Roswell was immediately in it.
That overdrive's joining.
For deploying atomic weapons. Finally, technicians took the radar equipment apart to check for malfunctions. They couldn't find it. The objects continued to zip around the area for hours. Dan Pullman and his wife were on their porch watching the lightning storm when a bright awful object zipped over their house and disappeared over the horizon. Moments later, the object streaked over Steve Robinson's truck as he was making his race. He tracked the object to the horizon, moving faster than any plane he'd ever seen. Over the next few nights, local sheriff George Wilcox received dozens of calls about objects in the sky. He hadn't seen anything himself, so he told the folks it was
Ocean Ave.
planes from the nearby airbase.
You must be crazy than you look.
A local rancher came into the office. Matt told the sheriff he'd come across a debris field on his ranch in Corona, New Mexico. At first he thought it was plane wreckage, but the material was like nothing he'd ever seen. He even brought a few pieces to show the sheriff. In the back of Mac's pickup were pieces of metal that looked like aluminum foil, but much thinner. It was also much stronger and lighter. And strangest of all, even though you could control the metal, as soon as you released it, it would revert back to its original shape. The sheriff called Roswell Army Airfield just outside of town, and the matter was assigned to an Army intelligence officer, Major Jesse Marcel. Brazel took Marcel back to the debris site, and the two gathered up more pieces of material from the crashed object. On Tuesday morning, Marcel took the material to the base commander, Colonel William Blanchard. Later that day, Walter Hawk, the base's public information officer, issued a press release that was picked up by newspapers and radio stations all over the country.
No, yes. The press release said they did not know every day.
The official United States Army press release said, "We found a UFO." It was national news. It was the story in the country.
Now, I know this might sound nuts,
Just a
but are
few
you the
hours
same
into
person not so in charge
the
of
Army retracted it, and General Roger Ramey at Fort Worth Army Airfield ordered Major Marcel to personally deliver the wreckage to him in Texas. A few hours after they landed, General Ramey held a press conference where aluminum foil and pieces of wooden debris were spread out in front of photographers and newspapermen. Ramey, with Marcel and was backing him up,
Yeah, so?
that the whole UFO thing was a mistake. That the debris was from a weather balloon, and that's all there was to the story. Matt Brazel, the rancher who found the wreckage, also changed his story. He said he regretted coming forward, and that the debris was just rubber strips, tinfoil, some paper, and balsa wood. Marcel, in front of the press, backed him up on this and said simply, we went back to the ranch and found a few more patches of tinfoil and rubber. General Raby went back to his normal duties and the deal was officially dropped. Headlines again spread throughout the country that the flying disc was nothing more than a weather balloon.
Hey, they really took the air.
Yancy. After that, everyone seemed to move on, the flying saucer craze cooled down, and the country forgot about Roswell.
Lessons.
Oh, not even close. The men at the press conference where the famous photos were taken were men of honor. If they're given orders, they follow them. But as they grew old, they remained men of honor, but there were no more orders to follow. All they had left to follow was their conscience. So these men of honor, they started telling the truth. Dr. Bob Wood was an aerospace engineer with a long and distinguished career. He worked at University, Lockheed, Hughes, and McDonnell Douglas. He taught courses at Georgia Tech, UCLA, Caltech, and USC. Dr. Wood was very well known, so it's easy to find his work history. There is a hole in Dr. Wood's resume from 1968 to 1970. During that time, Wood worked on a secret study for McDonnell Douglas. He was given a huge budget to find out if UFOs were real or not. One of the first people Dr. Wood recruited for this project was a young scientist also working at McDonnell Douglas, Stanton R. Friedman. Friedman was a nuclear physicist by trade, but also dabbled in UFO investigation. At the end of their 18-month study, they determined that UFOs were real and worth investigating. Dr. Wood was invited to present his findings to Congress, but knew this would hurt his career, so he declined. But Dr. Friedman took a different path. After working on the UFO study for McDonnell Douglas, Friedman began giving speeches on the subject to civic groups and scientific organizations. UFOs had become his passion, so he left the aerospace industry, changed his nickname to the Flying Saucer Physicist, and begun investigating UFOs full-time. It was as late as the mid-1970s. Stanton Friedman had never heard of the Roswell incident. In 1978, Friedman heard about it from a television producer. The producer, Bill Allen, told Friedman that he was eating radio buddies with Jesse Marcel. When Friedman learned that Marcel was the intelligence officer at a base that actually handled the wreckage from a UFO crash, Friedman wanted to meet him. And the story of Roswell incident takes a while to tell. That doesn't sound like the material on the front of another balloon.
I killed a freaking murder clown over there.
You really all crazy fucker. Disgusting.
Jesse Marcel was in charge of intelligence for the only atomic unit in the world. He wasn't going to go against orders. But before he went to the base with the wreckage and received the keep quiet order, he stopped at home first. There he showed the pieces to his wife and his son, Jesse Duke. The pieces weren't just metallic scraps. There was a small I-beam that had some kind of writing on it that Jesse and his father described as hieroglyphics. They even had the piece recreated.
And that's when I saw the writing, or the symbols of some sort. I thought at first, this is hieroglyphics or some kind of writing like that. It sort of looked alien to me.
Marcel was extremely familiar with all kinds of aircraft, including top-secret craft being deployed from Roswell Air Base. This wreckage didn't come from anything he recognized. General Thomas DuBose retired as a brigadier general, was General Ramey's chief of staff. He also posed for pictures at the press conference. He confirmed in multiple interviews that the weather story was a lie.
There's an hour story. The long part of it is the story that's to be given to the press.
General Clemens McClellan in Washington, D.C., called DuBose and gave him 3 orders. 1, get the press off our backs. 2, send some of the wreckage to Washington. And 3, never speak of this again. Not to General Ramey, not to anyone. So he didn't.
As deputy to George Kenny, and he in turn responsible for that. This is the highest mark he's going to get you or say nothing about it. And Jesus Dyson, she's on
Stanton Friedman kept interviewing witnesses, kept releasing articles, and kept speaking publicly about Roswell and how he believed it was a cover-up. Throughout the 80s and 90s, the military either said the weather balloon story was true, or they said nothing at all. But then in 1993,
Ruben and Keisha just flew out of here. Right. He didn't say anything. Damn thing. Jimmy's trying to figure it out. Oh, cool. Wish me luck. I'm going in. What's happening, Jimmy?
Shit. I know what you did.
Hey, dude, take it easy.
It's all in there. Ruben, exactly where the fuck that is, and your name. Over and over. You want to start the outbreak? You're fucking psycho!
No shit. He can't be in the dark, too. He told me they make a vaccine from my blood. I just wanted to get the hell out of here.
Internal investigation to uncover any documents they
This is my
missed.
city.
In 1995, the Air Force
You're gonna put a bullet in them.
suspicion in the New Mexico desert.
Don't be lost. You could have found out where he's gone.
By Jesse Marcel.
I know where he's gone.
Ridge, 1947.
Flown to some lab on Hollywood Boulevard.
The wreckage
What? Everyone's freaking out. We need you out here.
was a military surveillance.
All right. In a minute.
Acoustic sensors launched high altitudes to listen for the signatures of Russian atomic bomb tests. So why did some of the men at the airbase think it was a UFO? Well, because they
You're
were
on
never
Astro, right? You're Jimmy Montana off the TV. So go on. You know what the fuck you're doing.
Rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation.
Access
9 seasons of a band. 9 fucking seasons.
Research of several facilities and institutions. Each participating entity receiving enough information necessary to accomplish its
Get the horse, bitches.
in the case of
Jimmy Montana.
You tried, Carla, but enough's enough.
these unrelated
I should call it quits.
trained military personnel. They couldn't
Emma John? It's me. You there?
No, they couldn't.
Hello? Did your doctor get you out? Nope.
Fuck
Fucked me over. We're gonna make our own way. There's a helicopter in Hollywood Boulevard. And I know a pilot who's your biggest fan.
To be perfectly clear, the investigators
Persuade him to fly.
Persuade him to... Hey, if you can look from concrete so you can fly out of here.
No, come on, man. You really think I'd ask that? To get us all out. First gotta give him a pep talk. And leave him in the sewers for like
Oh, that's splendid. But it won't start the magic, won't it?
everyone's fucked up. The army, the doctor, probably retesting you already.
Bet they are wankers. Okay, I'll meet him. But no promises.
It's in the big cooler pipe by your house. I'm leaving now.
The Air Force said that the wreckage wasn't a flying saucer. They said it was a secret balloon. What they didn't really address was the fact they lied to the Air Force. Put a bunch of fake balloon wreckage on the Sunday press. So in 1997, the Air Force issued another report. They had questions to answer. Like, to all the records from 1947.
such as facilities, buildings, and grounds, and other general administrative matters from March 1945 to December 1949, and RAF outgoing messages from October 1946 through December 1949 were destroyed.
The document disposition form did not properly indicate the
I know
authority.
what Jim's happening.
Actions
He
taken.
sounded chillish. Almost slowly.
But the question people really wanted to be answered was, what happened to the alien bodies recovered from the second Sierra crash site?
Another crash with bodies.
Yes, there have been ET visitation. There have been crash craft. There have been material and bodies recovered. And there is some people somewhere that may or may not be associated with this point. This should be for a long time. That emphasized.
First, the crash site was 50 miles south of Corona, Mexico. But there was a second crash site. And according to eyewitnesses, whistleblowers, and leaked documents, it was what happened in the summer of 1947. In the few months leading up to the Roswell incident, there were over 300 UFO sightings over the New Mexico desert. These were witnessed by local residents and military personnel. On Friday, July 4th, 2 alien ships were flying over Corona, New Mexico. Why they were there is not clear, but best guess is they were surveying White Sands Missile Range. Back then, White Sands was the Alamogordo bombing and gunnery range. It's about 35 miles southeast of Socorro, New Mexico. That was the location of Trinity, the first time the human race deployed a nuclear weapon. That evening, there was an especially violent thunderstorm. Lightning filled the sky. The alien ships, unprepared for and unshielded from lightning, experienced an equipment failure. While flying in a tight formation, they collide. Rancher Mac Brazel hears a tremendous thunderclap, but it's different from the rest of the thunder. Others in the area report similar phenomena.
Well, wait, what's that word?
What phenomena?
Do, do, what do you do?
Phenomena.
Do, do, do,
Phenomena.
do, 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 do. You make it.
At 11:27 p.m., military radar installations all report seeing the objects. Then they
Forward Ashton did. She would be down at sea. Risking your life for pushing up.
She knew, but she was
They see a bright flash of light and a yellow whirring sound that passes overhead. Then something red strikes the ground nearby.
Andrea.
Well,
Archaeologists,
good to see you.
Not cleaning?
No, I burnt my mouth. It was up to the good.
Really show them what's what, huh?
I do something. I think this is my new story. It's not something that I should think about.
No, they don't.
And such a girl. Fame has nothing come from something can come from it. I hope so. Maybe.
A new Emma? That'd take a miracle.
Miracles happen. She came to the house, you know.
What?
Really? We were the same. I see old. Gracias a Dios. But, where is she? And Sam? After my jungle, they're waiting for you to see.
Infecting transforms her. That'll be it.
And a large military presence. Videos levy from the power station.
Whatever happens, you will always be welcome as a Salazar.
The FBI.
Thank you, Madrecita.
Melvin F. Brown, who was on guard duty at the impact site, has been ordered to not look under the tarp. But the moment that everyone's back is turned, he does. He sees the bodies of the alien flight crew. He described them as small with large heads and pale skin. Nearby, Mac Brazel discovers a large debris field. He heads to the home of his closest neighbors, Floyd Edler and Proctor. He shows them a little sliver of material that he can neither burn nor cut. The proctor suggests he shows the sheriff. He agrees and gathers pieces of the wreckage and heads home for the night. Military bases along the west coast put fighters on standby in case more flying discs are seen. Bases in Oregon and Washington have planes equipped with gun cameras and put on airborne alert. In Roswell for a conference, Stephen Bertram Schultz, a paleontologist, sees a large military presence between 2 and 5. He doesn't realize until later why so many soldiers were there. Local mortician Glenn Dennis contracted with the Air Force.
Box through the stores now.
It's they are unusual debris in the hospital while aiding the injured airman. Dennis is then confronted by officers who tell him he's seen and heard nothing. They say, quote, if he opens his mouth, they will be picking his bones out of the sand.
So I just and that's why they said you would be able to. And that's why they really told me since everything.
Back at the crash site, the bodies are seen. The crate is taken to a hangar and left on the ground. The crate is
Emma? Sam? Are you there? Hello? You read me?
There's nothing to see because everything has been packed and crated, ready for shipment.
Yeah, I don't have all day.
Must be crazy right now.
The debris is but incredibly sturdy. The metal paper reminds them of tin. The metal immediately returns to its original shape. Macrastle is becoming inattentive at the request. French deposit KGFL arranges the high brass of Venice. Marcel and Karen clean the field's perimeter and surrounding areas. They collect debris and at dusk begin the trip back to Roswell. Later in the afternoon, civilian reports come in regarding a similar crash site. Lieutenant General Nathan E. Twining is commander of the Air Material Command at Wright Field, Ohio. AMC works closely with industry partners, research labs, and other government agencies. The general alters the ground and flies into the debris field. Over Army Field, also known as Holloman Air Force Base, is located approximately 82 miles southwest of New Mexico. A few years later, a film would be leaked from Holloman showing UFOs landing on the base. General Cliff Spence, commander of the Air Force, tells reporters that he knows nothing about the plans from various local units to search for them. Senior Mass Brazel stayed in the hospital at his home. That evening, the station owner and news manager Robertson interviewed with Brazel. The interview was scheduled to be broadcast.
Emma? Sam?
Robertson noted at the time that broadcast never happened. At 2 a.m., Johnson is out on the base, waking his wife and son. They sit on the kitchen floor, being flying saucer. At 6 a.m., someone Blanchard was seen. Blanchard orders guards to secure the debris field, tonight it consists of unauthorized individuals. Blanchard contacts 8th Air Force headquarters and insists the quality of material made from the Soviet device. The message is relayed on the chain of command to SAC headquarters. During a staff meeting at 7:30 a.m., the debris is discussed. Samples of the wreckage are examined, but no one can identify it. The main concern
you're here.
is the discovery to the public.
Stop by yours first. Andrea thought you wanted to get it.
Yes, well, she really wanted us to stay, but...
Here, I have to be quick with him.
He's here to interview with Matt Brazel. If he does,
Captain, it's Carla. So surprised.
He's quite tough, eh?
Oh, hey. Oh,
Hello.
it's a mess. Everywhere.
given an army physical.
There's no need to kneel. We're not the Queen. Call me Emma.
Tap on. Oh, pass.
I'm Sam Stevens. You know, voodoo, you voodoo, kids.
Hassan, I really need your help. There's a helicopter on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, no. I can't.
You know Only to Kill?
Yeah?
Remember how Randy couldn't get back in the car after his crash? But then, when the monster was about to get him, goes up in the Camaro and saves him.
So cool.
I need you to be my Randy. Be Randy for all of us.
Okay, yeah. I'll try. Oh.
The other three are about the size of shoeboxes.
For you.
Thank you.
The special flight of B-29 takes off from Fort Worth Army
I
Airfield.
think I remember how to fly.
Baby's office with some of the debris. The general wants to see Randy and Marshall accompanies him to the medic room. Once Randy is
Excellent.
to the general's office. But the debris
Let's wait for the happy ending.
place is a written part weatherproof sky.
Thank you, kind sir.
Oh.
And Blanchard's supervising officer presented to the press. He's recovered a high-altitude balloon. Warrant Officer Irving Newton is ordered from the weather office at
Don't worry about it.
the airfield to Ramey's office. Newton, in front of a small number of reporters and officers, identifies the
Onwards and upwards, man.
He's then sent back to his regular duties. The press takes photographs of Jesse Marcel, General Ramey, and Thomas DeMille with the balloon. At 6:17 p.m., the FBI sends a telltale message from the Dallas office to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, telling him that a balloon is responsible for the reports. The message disputes General Ramey's announcement to the press. At 7:30 p.m., the AP breaks the news that the Roswell flying disc was a balloon. Ramey appears on a radio station that confirms this. A few hours later, an unscheduled flight arrives. An officer hands over more sealed boxes of wreckage. At 11:59 p.m., the photographs are transmitted to New York for wide distribution. But a small hiccup in the official story. During the entire process, Ramey held a memo in his right hand. In the photos, the text is very blurry. But by the early 2000s, software had improved to the point that enhancing the memo became feasible. But to do this, you'd need the original negatives right from the camera, if they still existed. Stan Friedman looked into this, and it turned out the negatives did still exist.
Can you read the words?
Most of the words, yes.
What's it say? Does it mention spaceship?
It sure does. Stan Friedman spent a lot of money to recover the original photographic negatives from the press conference where the weather balloon was made public. The negatives and prints made from them were subjected to multiple levels of analysis. In these photo photographs, the front face of the memo is clearly visible. Early analysis showed that there were certain words that could be deciphered, which had electrifying implications. The words urgent, victims, wreck, and the name of Air Force General Hoyt Vandenberg came through very clearly. Also references to a disc to be shipped by B-29, which did happen. The message then seems to imply that they should misstate the meaning of the story. It then suggests sending out public relations officers with weather balloons, that this would work if photos were used and demonstrated to the press. It did work. Morning newspapers report that the flying saucer near Roswell is a weather device. Second site cleanup resumes at sunrise to ensure civilians don't stumble upon the airfield. At 8 a.m., members of the 1st Air Transport Unit load crates into C-54s. Armed guards watch as 3 or 4 aircraft are loaded for transport to Kirtland Air Base and then off to Los Alamos. Los Alamos was, and might still be, the most secure military facility in the world. Colonel Blanchard personally takes part to Building 84, Hangar P3, which is heavily guarded both inside and out. Inside of the reserves, the recent airport is close to 15 people. 65 resemble an egg with a metallic surface. The windows has the famous tail section, landing gear visible. This is a complete place that carries storms. And electric insides.
That ain't on.
Of course it is. I eat stupid too. I can't go to the taste.
Yeah, I should be dead about 100 times.
Is it usual for anything with weapons?
Yes. Thought it was a red one. After me. Ooh.
You what? They can handle it.
Let's try this.
Later, reporter Frank Joyce points out that this news story is much different than his original account. Ross responds that it would be bad for him if he didn't tell the news story. At 8 p.m., the B-29 flight crew is back. Again, they were not debriefed, but are told that they have flown the general's furniture to Fort Worth, and they're cautioned not to tell anyone, including their families, about the flight. As far as anyone is concerned, the flight never happened. At the debris field in Midland City, cleanup is intense. No debris remains, and there's no sign they were ever there. Military personnel return to Sheriff Wilcox's office and ask for a box of debris that he'd been storing. Wilcox surrenders. The debriefings of all witnesses are underway. Participants are taken into a room in small groups and told that the recovery is a highly classified event. Everyone is to forget that it ever happened. The military warns civilians as well that they can never talk about what happened. In some cases, witnesses are threatened with death should they ever speak to anyone. Over the next few years, the military continued to search for and even find more debris from the crash sites. They still weren't enough that the public was interested. Roswell was still talked about in local UFO groups and scenes. It was not considered fringe, but in 1978, Stan Friedman brought the Roswell incident on the mainstream. In 1980, Bill Moore and Charles Berlitz.
Which guy?
Yep, that guy. They published Roswell incident sold a lot of copies. Roswell was covered on TV shows like Unsolved Mysteries and In Search of, and later was featured prominently on The X-Files. By the 1990s, everyone had heard of Roswell, which forced the Air Force to release their report in 1995. This brings us back to the second Air Force report released in 1997. And in this report, they finally learned what happened to the bodies. In 1997,
That shit's all stupid. Now we got flames everywhere.
The Air Force said it was recovering alien bodies. Actually, it is not being stressed to production necessary. The project was named Operation Iodine. We went out into the facilities for various sites to see what kind of faults we could survive. I said, that's the word in the city. Since they told me the threats they were organized, their lives were sure of. When they heard of it,
hands, legs, and fingers. This detail, dummies with missing fingers, appears to satisfy another element of the research profile. Aliens with only 4 fingers.
Why?
We stand out. But let's just say they really try to love us all like this. Maybe stubbies were confused with and I can't believe it being safe. Stubbies were confused with the aliens. It's just not standing in the other report.
Oh, because Operation Eye-Jump, the super secret high-altitude dummy dropping project, it didn't start until 1953, 6 years after the Roswell crash.
This is a joke.
They were talking about 1947. They're talking about dummies used in the 50s, almost a decade later. Well,
Oh, did he say time? Christian.
Yeah, that's Air Force being 4 people got the names wrong.
Are you fucking people? What is this?
Our 40 quotes eyewitness named Gerald Anderson.
Wait, look at this.
Baby Gerald was a very intelligent, precocious, I think they call it.
They quoted a 5-year-old witness.
J.R. Gerald was 55.
Look, you're doing in the street. You're gonna choose 55. Well, there was a place 50 years ago when he was 5.
That's right.
Jeez, I haven't seen an investigation this foggy since then.
Yeah, that wasn't too big. Common government CIA technique. You sort the outcome, and you have your team of investigators and experts. There are no ridiculous details. There's the big way. Well, let's see. It's only fair that we present a little service. Because we couldn't corroborate, but even the witness reports the red video of them were perfect. I've seen videos from the rest of it is. Maybe that's true, but I can only find 7. Almost everyone from friend or spouse or child. Even Roger, who saw the said they couldn't burn the metal. They tried bending and cutting it, they couldn't do it. That's a new story. Her earlier story mentions something about the grave. It actually was that she never saw the grave of any kind. The stubby was the teletype operator, claiming FBI interrupted her broadcast for her response.
Oh, yeah, we wanted to visit his opinions.
That's true. I still like to she's not there. Nolan Brown was the guard who said he spoke about his on different occasions. Once in the crash site, and once while recording that thing. The truth is, history comes restored. They mentioned yeah.
military facilities.
Do that.
It's freezing, right? So,
There's an evaluation report from General Ramey himself, who said Barcelona's account says this officer is not a rated pilot. His assumption of the position of commanding general is not a consideration. Himself was an intelligence officer. Before that, an administrative assistant. And before that, a floating interpretation and visual needs. They interviewed for 20 years and Joe mentioned over there. You're now in. Evidence about is that the wreckage in the photos is the same wreckage that Marcel brought from Roswell. Yes, a lot of things. And I lived out most of his testimony because the biggest is he had a friend who was from Arizona base. We had lunch one day, she showed him a drawing on an alien body, and she ended up dead. This never happened. Then there's three from the donor relations officer who received the credit to the bodies. He gave us a date to release an evidence that signed on this and give it out to a doctor who has the Roswell story comes from his affidavit that he gave to was interviewed in 2000, and he had trouble remembering everything. His affidavit, however, was clear in detail. Turns out the affidavit was written by a author based on interviews with him. Upon reviewing it, didn't make any changes and signed it. No.
Here we're going. Better hurry.
Every story about Roswell is presented as they signed the document, he didn't understand what it was. But I've seen the interviews with him, and he did say everything was true. So he's a tricky one. Colonel Blanchard did go on leave right after the crash, but he didn't oversee any cleanup operation. He went on a 2-week vacation with his wife to Santa Fe. Sure, these records could have been falsified, but there's proof that he was with the governor during this time. So a lot of witnesses do change their story over time, and that's to be expected. It's 50, 60, 70 years. But true believers cherry-pick the best stories and throw away all the rest. The truth is, we will never really know what happened in Roswell in 1947. The records are gone. The witnesses are dead. And with all due respect to UFO researchers, they only write one side of the story.
skepticism doesn't sell.
It doesn't. I believe something did happen out there. It was a secret military program or their site. I can't be sure.
Let's go.
In 2013, a document was found in the FBI archives. It's written by Guy Hoddle, special agent in charge of the Washington office. It's dated March 22nd, 1950, and the title is Information Concerning
An investigator for the Air Forces stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. They were described as being circular in shape, raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, 23 feet tall, dressed in suits of very long textures.
Join now and get your free bonus pack and free you please. Alright, Stateside, it's Pamela here. I'm coming home.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. My name is AJ. There's Hecklefish. This has been the Y-Files. And if you had fun or learned anything, do Hecklefish a favor, like, subscribe, share. That stuff really helps us out. It makes us so happy. I'd like to notice the cover of the channel. Today's was recommended by you. If there's a story you'd like to see or anything like that, go to theyfiles.com/tips. And if you'd like to join a great community, check out the Y-Files Discord. It's free to join. There's thousands of people on there, and it's a lot of fun. A special thanks to our patrons who make this channel possible. You guys are amazing, and we could not do this without you. And if you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member of Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you can keep the Y-Files going, and you get all kinds of perks. Or buy something from the Y-Files store.
You can buy it with talking Hecklefish plushy fish doll. T-shirt, so you can
Let's get to it. That's the least that I'd be safe. Be accommodating. And nothing yet.
You better be keeping them safe, Sam.
This is not an easy thing to do, but to reach 9-year lifetimes, the Kepler telescope confirmed the existence
Fucking coffee.
okay, just like... Hey. So, to give German. That's why I've been using the sponsor of today's video to help me out. It's not only a fun challenge, but it'll help me connect better with my family members. Babbel is one of the top apps. It's scientifically proven to start speaking languages in just 2 weeks, and it's not
City's lost to the moon.
Kepler 1649c could be a contender to become Earth 2.0. It's 300 light years away.
That's a key.
Star. It gets sunlight, but only 75% is Earth, so it might be a bit cooler there. And there will be seasons in Kepler 1649c. It only takes 19 hours. It means that. And it doesn't mean that. Which means one side of the planet faces itself.
Yo, Constant.
I get you for something.
Hey, Constant.
Bye.
Red dwarf star could be risky. Sometimes red dwarf stars send out massive flares, dousing an orbiting planet in UV light.
Great travel. It's Sarah. If you're in the area, I'm fixing help at Monster Studios. Meet me at my trailer by stage 4. Phase 4. Roger that, Captain.
So far away, you only know about its size, distance to a star, and incoming atmosphere. So, back up humanity takes a multi-generational trip to Earth 2.0 and discover that it's more like a Neptune 2.0.
Thank you.